Happy Self-Love Sunday. I am Moe Sass, the host of Self-Love Sundays with Sass. I am a certified life coach who considers herself an aide in the village that helps walk alongside people's journeys to help them have the life they so desperately desire. And why I say an aide in the village is because I'm old school, y'all. I believe it takes a village to raise, heal, love, and transform a child. And we are all children of the universe, aka God. So this is my God-given purpose to help people have the life they so desperately desire. And whether that's in terms of relationships, marriage relationships, parenting relationships, business relationships, right? Financial freedom, all sorts of things we walk along. I walk along you within your journey to help you have the life you so desperately desire, because we all have dreams and hopes and we don't always know how to get there. So I'm the person that helps bridge the gap between where you are today and where you would like to be. So today, as we start this January off, I want to come in because remember the theme. If you haven't listened, if you can go back and check out my video from last week on my YouTube channel. But the theme for this year is peace, purpose, and execution. That means if it's not bringing you peace, therefore leading you to your purpose where you can execute on it, meaning taking action, it must go. So the very first thing before we can start our journey is we need to take inventory. So today, if you need to pause this video, please do so right now and grab a journal, because I'm going to give you some questions for you to write down and really think about, because it's time for us. Listen, if you don't know what you're storing, if you don't know what you're carrying, then you don't know what needs to be worked on, right? You don't know what's standing in the way of you having the life that you dream of. So we have to take inventory of our lives. Okay, so that way, because here's the thing, the peace that I mainly talk about is internal peace. My saying is no one wins when the family feuds. And what I'm talking about is the feud within yourself, the fact that you're not in alignment. So because you are constantly at odds with yourself, you find that you're at odds with people all around you. It starts with you. Everything in our lives begins and ends with us because we are the CEO of our lives. We get to hire, fire accordingly. And that means the old parts within ourselves as well, because we start with us before we ever go outside of us. So one of the things we want to do is really get real. Like, it's really time for us to get real about the things that require improvement and no longer serve us, right? The things that are causing the internal conflict. So one of the very first questions I have is, what is it that you need to release? What is it that you need to release? What is it that you're holding on to that no longer serves you? Whether this is something mentally, something physically, right? Even if it's something that we're putting into our bodies that we know that are not good for us. So when I talk from mental, physical, nutritional, spiritual, right? All of the aspects, okay? Because it starts with us, head to toe, right? So what is it, something that you need to release and really work on? What is it that you're avoiding? We all have something, whether it's cleaning out the garage. Think about it from that aspect, right? Or our closets that we avoid doing. We avoid touching it because we don't want to touch the emotion that comes along with it. So what is it that you are avoiding? And here's the thing. When to dive deeper into these questions, I actually wrote something down that I normally do with myself every single year. And I like to pass it along to my clients as well as friends. This is how you want to look at when you're thinking about taking inventory and what you need to release and work on. Here is a question that's going to help you dive a little bit deeper, okay? So what is the one thing that you complained about the most in the last year that you're committed to changing in this year? What is the one thing you complained about the most last year that you're committed to changing this year? And how will you measure that? Why? Because if you're still complaining while not taking any action, that means that you're committed to staying in the complacent. And see, I mess up sometimes, y'all, and I'm not restarting this video. So that means that you're committed to complaining. Therefore, draining, not just to yourself, but to the people around you. So again, if you stay just in the complaining mode, all you're doing is complaining about the same thing year after year after year, that is a choice. That means you are choosing to not take deliberate action, and it can be very draining. And you think that it's draining on your friends and family, but it's very draining on you, because again, instead of, if you do something about it, it clears it out of your mind, and then you can move forward, right? And then that thing goes away, whatever that is. The next question is, what is my one toxic trait that I'm committed to changing? Here's the thing. Again, are we going to get real? We all have toxic traits. If there is not a person, there's not a human walking around here who does not have a toxic trait. And when you identify it, therefore calling it forth, you can actually work on it. But again, if you refuse, see, here's the thing, you can't refuse to acknowledge it or stay in denial about your toxic trait. So the question then becomes, what are you pretending not to know? If you say, well, I don't really believe I have a toxic trait, what are you pretending not to know? What are you pretending not to know about yourself? And here's the thing, if we don't get real about the things, the traits, the complaints that we have in our life that we're not moving or doing any work towards, then that's why there is no change in those particular areas in your life. If you refuse to acknowledge your toxic traits of cheating, lying, manipulating in relationships, and then you wonder why your relationships don't work out, you're pretending not to know who you are and how you show up in those relationships. If you avoid conflict, okay? These are the things that you have to get real with. See, change requires us to fully get real about the things that are happening within us. And then once you acknowledge it, you can get to the root of it. Did you grow up with manipulative parents? Get to the root of it. A lot of times, let me just say this up front. A lot of times people don't like to touch that because it's like, well, I'm not, I don't want to blame my parents. Let me just say this up front. I don't blame my mother and father for a thing. First of all, to me personally, it was a blessing to grow up in a 2-parent household. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And guess what? But things happen. They're humans too. They're humans too. It's not about blaming them. It's about understanding. Understanding what took place as to how I got to the place that I am right now in my 40s, still vying and fighting for things, right? Some of us are still in survival mode and don't understand why we live in survival mode. A lot of these traits we learned along the way, whether it was traumas that happened to us when we were younger, or things that happened in different relationships as we came about, whether it was personal and or business relationships. You have to understand how it started in order to work on it so that it can no longer go forward with you in your life. If you're not successful in your relationships and there's a bunch of toxic turmoil, if it's arguing, fussing, and fighting going on all around you and everything is crumbling and you're not seeing any sort of financial stability, and there's something there that you're not tapping into. But it takes you to do that. And here's the thing. Do we always see everything? No, I don't always see all the things that are in my way, but this is why we have to get in tune and touch with ourselves to put systems in place so we can understand that. What do I mean by having systems? An accountability partner, having real conversations with the people in our lives, asking questions. How do I show up? What is it that you see? What is it that you hear when you hear me speaking, right? When you have people in your life who you truly love, you can ask those questions to, and they will tell you if you can take hearing it. Because a lot of times people say, they want the truth, and then when they get it, they can't really handle it, and then they turn around and just start deflecting, and then, it causes this whole big argument thing, okay? So I also say that if you're in any sort of relationship, that's why I'm a person who strongly believes in having a counselor, therapist with you. Why? Because we can't always see, we all come to relationships with all of our own baggage. So you can't sometimes see how you show up. And when your partner tries to address it, especially if they don't really understand how to communicate it to you in the right way, it can cause things that doesn't need to be caused. It can cause feelings of resentment, anger, and bitterness, and jealousy, and all. And this happens within couples, right? In competition, where we should not be competing against each other. That is how we lose. If you are in a relationship and you are competing against your partner, I guarantee you're gonna lose. That's a lose-lose. And we shouldn't look at life as win-win, lose-lose, but the truth is that's how some people look at things. Okay? So this is why it's so important to have a system in place. So a system could be an accountability partner. A system could be a life coach. A system could be a therapist. A system could be a journal where you write down your emotions and things that you're going through, things that you're feeling. And then you can look back on those journals and see where you're repeating patterns in your life. My journals are absolutely, I'm going to tell you right now, my journals were crucial to highlighting the things that needed to change in my life. When I looked in my journals and see how even certain times of the year, I'm repeating the same patterns over and over again, whether it's in thought, whether it's in relationships, whether it's with my children, whether it's with my family, it was really eye-opening for me. You cannot see, and sometimes you even forget, right? Because your life is happening. So every single day that we get up, there's something new. So that's why when you journal it out, you're able to go back and reflect on, okay, this is where I was. Okay. And where reflection is beautiful, because here's the thing. We don't just reflect to go back and look at the bad things. We reflect to look at the things that we overcame and accomplished. The very first thing in reflection you should do is look at the wins. Look at all the things you accomplished. We're in this, and that's it. If that's a trait that you have, that's a toxic trait of beating yourself up, going back to look at all the things that didn't happen, and then you're beating yourself up about it. That doesn't help you to become the person that you're looking to become. And it's all about a state of being. Who are you being? Who do you be when you show up? Are you all of you? I just had a conversation with a client who talked about how people had to earn her laughter. It's like, well, I'm not going to just, let my guard down. And I'm not going to just, laugh and joke. It's like, what do you mean? You're going to split yourself up into 30,000 different people. Therefore, that's internal conflict. And here's the thing, I come here and I tell y'all all the time, I keep it funky. I used to be the same exact way. I show up one way at work. I'm another way in my fitness class. I'm another way when I'm going to my dance class. I'm another way when I'm with my partner, right? I'm another way when I'm with my children. And so what happens is when you split yourself up into so many different individual people, okay, that creates a disconnect. And I didn't understand why my relationships were the way they were. Is because I was so disconnected. I'm going to tell y'all the whole truth. I had to figure out I was the emotionally unavailable partner. That was a slap in the face. Why? Because in my mind, I'm educated, right? All these certifications and all these different psychology backgrounds and fields of all the things that I do, and never even realized until I took inventory that I was emotionally unavailable due to all the hurt and trauma and pain that I experienced in my life from previous relationships and some things that happened to me along the way as I grew up. Those traumas that happened to you, let me tell you something. Do not fool yourself into believing that you can just forget about the past and everything is going to be cool. Let me tell those people who love to say, well, just forget about it, let it go. It doesn't matter. It is showing up in your life right now. It is showing up in your relationships. It's showing up if you have children. It's showing up in your business. I promise you, what you do not acknowledge, what you choose to live in denial about, what you choose not to touch because you're scared of the emotions, there's fear of the emotions that come up with it. It is showing up in every relationship that you have. That fear, because that's what that is, that fear still lives within you. The only way to break through a barrier of fear is facing the fear. And here's the thing, you don't face it alone, especially if it's a deep trauma. My trauma of being touched at 13, I did not face it alone. I had to get a therapist for that. There are some traumas that my clients deal with. There are some that we walk through together. I walk through it with them as their life coach, and there are some that's deeper where we need a professional for that. To me, it's like there are certain therapists that can go a little bit deeper. They're trained to do that. I'm not trained in certain areas, and never will I stand in the way or to pretend to be something that I'm not. And that's another thing that gets to change this year. We cannot pretend anymore. If you are pretending every single day, you will never get to know who you truly are, which means you'll never get to truly know what needs to be tweaked or worked on so you can become what it is you want to become. When will you understand that being you is a beautiful thing, scars and all? I show up here every single Sunday, scars and all, whether crying or trauma, breakups, whatever. This is who I am. If people enjoy my content, they do. If they don't, that's okay. Be you. If you show up as you are and someone doesn't like you or approve of you, guess what? That means you're human. That means that means that you're just not for that person. It doesn't make you a bad person. But be you. So many people are not themselves, and then they wonder why things are crumbling around them. It's because you refuse to take inventory to even understand why are you pretending to be something else? Why do you feel like you have to show up like I have all these things and I have my life in order when you truly don't? Why? Never understanding that most people don't have their life completely in order. We're all working on something. Hello, somebody. Hello, most of my clients come in and that's the thing. They don't understand. They're just human. I was working with someone yesterday and she was just like, well, I know I'm going to sound crazy. No, you don't. You sound human. This is why it's important to work with someone who is outside of your circle. Because most times the circles that we run in, because they feel like they know you, right? They may say, well, that is crazy. But when you step outside of your circle and you start to get with an accountability partner, aka life coach like me, well, I tell you, there's nothing that is impossible. The word can't does not exist. If you hold a vision in your mind, and make it plain, who said that? Come on, y'all. And make it plain, and then set up goals to go after it, you could absolutely be, do, or have anything that you desire in this life. Anything. And I'm not just a person, because I think it's important when we talk about who we listen to. Don't just listen to someone who talks about it as not about it. I promise you, I took myself from welfare to 6+. And it's not about the money, it's about the mindset. In my trajectory of where I'm going, baby, high. I promise. I don't see a ceiling. It doesn't exist. But that took work. I didn't wake up one day coming from inner city Plainfield, New Jersey, thinking that I can be or do or have anything that I wanted. It was putting the system in place. It was me taking inventory of where there was lack and limiting beliefs in my life to help me step into that. Where there was lack and limiting beliefs that said I couldn't have my own business. When I come from a family of entrepreneurs, my grandparents were entrepreneurs on both sides. My brother is the baddest, okay? But it was my limiting beliefs that was in my way. So I had to get a system in place to work through that. I had to take inventory to understand where fear existed. I had to take inventory because I came from that old school background that what happens in the house stays in the house, and you just move on. You just forget about it. I know people who were raped and they just forget about it. Just go pray, talk to the Lord, and go. Well, let me tell you something. There are traumas that happen in our lives 100%. Let me tell you something right now. You need your higher power. And please, Stop punishing God for what humans have done to you. We all have free will. God did not put that on them to do to you. That was the spirit, honey. And that has nothing to do with God. And when you walk this journey, I please understand that you cannot walk it alone. And I am sitting here today talking to you because of God. So the first thing I always say is get in tune and touch with your higher power, whether that means reading the Bible, Quran, whoever it is that you call your higher power. I'm not here to tell you who that is. I will never shrink back. I will always say, is my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, because he saved me. And that's okay. If you don't call, yours could be Buddha, Allah, universe, the tree. You can say the God within you. That doesn't matter to me. The most important thing is that you become in tune and in touch with it. Okay? Because you're gonna need God on this journey. When you start taking inventory of your life and seeing where not only that people hurt you, where you hurt people, you're gonna need God. I promise you that. I promise you that. Okay? The second thing, when I talk about an accountability partner, life coach, www.moesass.com. You can also email me at info@moesass, moesass.com. Also, you can message me on Instagram and Facebook. It's Life Coaching with Sass, and it's just a W. Reach out to me. We can talk, because I'm telling you, that's how the change happens. You can't do this on your own. And if you could do it with the group of friends that you had, it would have been done already. I'm going to say it again. If you could do it with the group of friends that you have in your life, it would be done already. You want to know where you're headed in the next 5 years? Take inventory of who's around you. That's another inventory that you have to stop pretending and living in denial about. Who are you surrounding yourself with? Why is it that you feel sometimes lack in limiting beliefs about yourself? Who are you talking to? Who are you listening to? Faith comes by hearing. Who's really opening up your eyes? That's so important. Who's got your ear? What are you listening to first thing in the morning? What are you listening to throughout the day? Who are you listening to? Because if you're around a bunch of closed-minded, only can see locally type people, guess where you going to be in 5 years? Closed-minded and still in the same locally mentality type people. But you cannot blame anyone else. You have to stand in your power and take accountability for your life. It's so important to listen to things that expand your mind. It all starts with your mindset. But you have to take inventory. So I hope that this message really, really hits home for someone today. That yes, you can live the life of your dreams. All it takes is for you to get out of denial. Stop pretending not to see the things around you. Stop pretending not to know how you are out here hurting and harming people, but always claiming that someone's hurt you. Somebody need to hear that today. It's time to get out of that victim mentality. And when I say victim mentality, I want to make it clear, I'm not talking about someone who's physically and emotionally being abused. That's not what I mean. I'm talking about the people who love to complain about how everyone's hurt them and they're so hurt and they were so heartbroken, and never understand that they are out here generating more hurt than was ever done to them, because hurt people hurt people. But if you begin to heal, then guess what? You'll get around a bunch of healed people, and that's love on a different level, baby. Get in a room with a room full of healed women and men. The conversation is very different. I love those rooms, and I put myself there. Why? Because I'm not a victim, and I refuse to be. So ask yourself that today while you're taking inventory, okay? And again, I hope you have the most wonderful, wonderful rest of your week. I will talk to you next Sunday.